This is a discussion of unpopular Stardom opinions and multiple Stardom hot takes for the month of June 2025. Today I'm covering perspectives that might cause disagreement or even stunned silence. These have been almost entirely submitted by you, though I've added a hot take of my own to the mix. Hot take. Noun. A piece of writing or speech, especially on the internet, giving someone's personal opinion about a topic. Usually strong opinions that have not been carefully thought about and that many people are likely to disagree with. Naturally, we won't 100% see eye to eye or agree that every submission fits the hot take definition precisely, but the larger goal is to encourage discussion and further interest in Stardom. If you find these discussions valuable, please give this a like, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment to let me know what you think. Links to our hot takes and unpopular opinions from May and April can be found in the description below. Those who submitted their hot takes for this month will remain anonymous throughout this video. Our first submission deals with one of Stardom's very top belts. Here goes. Hanan should challenge for the red belt and, in my opinion, should win for a short run at least. This submission went on to say that the Stars faction could use this win to help them stay relevant. As it turns out, Hanan is currently one of the frontrunners for this year's 5-star GP, and may in fact go on to challenge Saya Kamitani for the red belt. I've talked about the narrative parallels between Kamitani and Hanan in Red Belt Radio's 64th transmission and in my conversion preview with Meerkat Ultra. In my opinion, if Stardom wants to pay off Hanan's story with a Kamitani red belt challenge, they still have some work to do in building it up. If it were up to me though, Hanan would fight as a white belt champion before ever touching the red belt. Her 2024 Cinderella win placed her on a story path involving the white belt, and her history with Starlight Kid, a prominent fixture in the white belt or Wonder of Stardom universe, is not to be underestimated. Though we will get varying opinions on this, and rightfully so, I believe the white belt is usually more centered around spirit, emotion, dramatic storytellers, and heroes overcoming vile antagonists, whereas the red belt or World of Stardom Championship is about who can be the most resilient, the most formidable, and the most powerful, regardless of alignment. There are of course exceptions to this, and there is of course overlap. But I believe that Hanan fits more naturally in the white belt or Wonder of Stardom category as I've described it. Here's our second submission. Making fans get up to throw opponents into the chairs feels stale at this point. This submission went on to say that this stunt, which is frequently pulled by H.A.T.E, doesn't present very much of a payoff. For those that don't know, the H.A.T E faction is notorious for ambushing their opponents and forcing them outside of the ring. From there, they remove fans from their chairs and whip the opponents into the chairs themselves, making a mess of the entire venue. This tactic is sometimes called chair bowling. I actually feel like many foreigner fans would agree with this submission, and for that reason, I don't personally consider it to be a hot take, since H.A.T E seems to do this at every single Stardom show, sometimes during multiple matches. It's very hard for me to disagree with the point being made here. However, I thought it might be interesting for me to play devil's advocate anyway, and bring up why this redundant tactic might actually be beneficial. 1. Chair bowling gets wrestlers used to fighting outside of the ring. Keep in mind that while H.A.T E is doing this every show, their opponents rotate, so eventually the entire roster will be receiving a lot of practice, battling on the floor and fighting it out in the crowd. 2. Chair bowling gives audience members, especially photographers, cool moments. Japanese audiences are full of photographers, and chair bowling brings the show to them in a way that creates dynamic photo ops. 3. Chair bowling helps pad match runtime. which could ultimately make things easier for tired or worn down wrestlers. The Stardom schedule from week to week can get very, very intense, and sometimes they might just need a way to help deal with that. 4. Chair bowling allows the match it's a part of to be somewhat different from the others on the card. And 5. Chair bowling gives seconds additional experience and practice communicating and working with the crowd. With that out of the way, even if all of these things end up being true, I still think H.A.T.E should mix up their approach and not rely on chair bowling for every Stardom show in existence. The third hot take comes from yours truly. Konami is quietly becoming a top villain character in Stardom. Since bloodying and brutalizing Starlight Kid in their white belts title match at the Cinderella Finals, Konami has gone on to steal the artist belts from Neo Genesis, antagonize Kiyoka Kotatsu of God's Eye, and mockingly torment wrestlers like Miyu Amasaki while Starlight Kid has been forced to watch helplessly. Konami has instantaneous heat with both God's Eye and Neo Genesis thanks to her efforts over the past year. And it's possible that Mi Vida Loca will get added to that list down the road. Konami also has one of the most decisive and visually shocking gimmicks in the form of her spray paint. If someone gets hit with the spray paint, the match isn't lasting much longer after that point. In a faction like H.A.T.E, where some of the villains are over with the crowd, and some of the villains are more fun than they are foul, Konami is willing to become truly vile and truly threatening, and I don't think that we should overlook her effective recent contributions. Our fourth hot take involves one of Stardom's most prestigious tournaments. Ami Sourei will win a 5-star Grand Prix. This is a bold statement, which is exactly what we like during these discussions. Critically, this submission states that Ami will win a Grand Prix and not specifically this year's Grand Prix. I'm very much conflicted about this, so I will present both the positive signs for Ami Sourei and also some of the deciding factors pertaining to her would-be tournament success. Positives for Ami Sourei. 1. Ami has been making constant Stardom appearances as a guest commentator ever since her injury. The fact that Stardom has placed Ami Sourei on camera and on mic just about every single month implies that they won't be harsh to her when it comes to booking. 2. Hanako's push is a good example of how strong a larger, more physical wrestler can be made to look under the current Stardom regime. Now, Ami is not nearly as large as Hanako, but she is a physical presence against most opponents, and one could argue that that physical presence is lacking in the current Stardom roster. It might even be the case that Hanako was pushed even faster than she would have been because of Ami's absence. 3. Tomoka Inaba is the only God's Eye member besides Shuri who has been booked at the level of red or white belt contender. This is a very good sign, and it means that Ami's faction still has space for someone who can threaten the company's top belts and top tournaments. Now let's look at what I think absolutely needs to happen in order for Ami to be considered for the 5 stars top prize. Depending factors. 1. Ami's physical performance post-injury needs to be up to par. She must keep up with Stardom's demanding schedule, and she must deliver on match quality to stand out in God's Eye and in the larger talent pool. 2. Hanan's career path should ideally continue to be electric and prosperous. This would in turn strongly position Ami, who has been a direct rival of Hanan for years at this point. 3. The crowd sympathy and support for Ami needs to be noticeable. Fans will need to continue to show interest in her return and curiosity for where she goes next. 4. The execution of Ami's upcoming angles and rivalries will need to be solid. Fortunately, Stardom is pretty open right now, and there are a lot of options for what can be done with Ami Sourei. One of the big things for Stardom will be to avoid making Ami's next moves feel stagnant or underwhelming. If Ami Sourei wants to achieve what many Stardom wrestlers merely dream of, a 5-star Grand Prix victory, there are already a few good omens, but there is also still a lot of work to do. What unpopular Stardom opinions have you been hearing these days? What Stardom hot takes do you have? And which of today's submissions do you think is the most surprising? Please keep in mind that the hot takes and unpopular opinions for May and April will be included via links in the description below. Thanks everyone for your submissions, and thanks for watching.